On today's Locked On Giants podcast, we continue our look at the New York Giants 2024 opponents with a trip down south to Tampa Bay, where James Yarcho, host of Locked On Bucs, tells us everything we need to know about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's coming your way next on the Locked On Giants podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Giants podcast is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your Trisha Traina, credentialed member of the New York Giants media for Locked On, as well as for New York Giants on SI. Find my written work over at si.com/NFL/Giants. Welcome on into my Blue Crew community members, my everydayers, and everybody in between. Thank you so much for spending part of your day with us here on the Locked On Giants podcast. And on today's show, we are continuing our look at the New York Giants 2024 opponents. And on today's show, we're going to look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and who better to tell us all about the Bucs and all the changes they've made than our very own Locked On Bucs host, James Yarcho. James, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Excited to talk some football. We're almost there.
I know.
We're so close.
I know. It's like 6 weeks, from the time we record this, and those 6 weeks are going to go by fast. So anyway, lots to talk about. James, I think the first thing we want to start off with is you have a new offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, replaced Dave Canales, who went to Carolina as their head coach. Based on what you've seen so far, how is the Bucs offense going to change under Cohen?
I think it's actually going to be kind of a similar scheme, but the way that Liam Cohen's going to run it is what's really going to make some interesting changes. Last year, as much as I love Dave Canales, he was so stubborn at times and not willing to adjust, especially when it came to the run game. And Liam Cohen has talked to the media about his philosophy to the point that he's going to call 3 or 4 plays in the huddle. Then he's going to give the power to his offensive leaders, Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Tristan Wirfs, to decide what play to put themselves in, given what they're seeing, against a particular defense, and being able to make those adjustments. He really likes to put the power of the play calling in the hands of the player. So I think their ability to do that is really going to maximize the strengths of what they're going to be able to do. And then on top of that, you have Liam Cohen coming from that Sean McVay, offensive coaching tree. And, he also has some experience with Mike Leach. So I think it's going to be kind of an interesting combination of the two offensive philosophies now to maximize what Baker Mayfield can do, maximize the weapons that they have, and hopefully get out of the bottom of the league in terms of the run game.
You mentioned Baker Mayfield, who, the Bucs took a flyer on him. He worked out well for them. Can you talk about the growth you've seen from him from maybe his, final days in Cleveland to where he is now?
Baker is an interesting player to really take a look at, because I was a big fan of his coming out of college, and I thought he did as well as could be expected in Cleveland. He had that, really bad year where he was dealing with an injury the entire season, tried to fight through it, tried to be a leader, and that cost him his job. They sent him off to Carolina, and then that year, to me, between Carolina and Los Angeles, that's a throwaway year. So when Tom Brady retired, I was on this show or on Locked On Bucs saying Baker Mayfield's the guy for the Buccaneers. He fits what they need to replace Tom Brady. And, there was some blowback, but he's won over the fans. The players absolutely love him. The coaching staff loves him. The front office loves him. He's a dude. When you talk about guys in the locker room, Baker is a dude, and players gravitate towards him. I think he's, with the maturity that he has compared to when he came out of Oklahoma, as a person, as an adult, that has translated to the field, and it has translated to practices and film studies and meeting rooms. And he's the unquestioned leader of this team now. And you're taking a situation where he was brought in to compete with Kyle Trask last year. Now he is the unquestioned leader of the offense. And I think that kind of takes a little bit of weight off of his shoulders. He can go in with a different attitude this year, knowing that he doesn't have to look over his shoulder. Is somebody coming for his job? He doesn't have to worry about making a mistake and being relegated to the bench. He's the guy. And I think we're going to see him play a little more freely and a little more relaxed, which could be good, but it also could be bad, knowing Baker Mayfield and some of the mistakes that he does make. But I would argue that when it comes to pre-snap reads, Baker Mayfield is one of the best in the business. It's about translating what he can see pre-snap to not making a mistake after the snap.
You mentioned that Liam Cohen is going to send several plays into the huddle and let the decision makers, the players, decide. So I'm assuming that's going to be Baker Mayfield. How confident are you in his ability to make the right decision? And then obviously when you get up to the line of scrimmage, you may have to adjust that. So how confident are you in that?
Extremely. Which I realize may sound a little bit odd to some people, but it's because he is so smart and so good at reading defenses before the snap. And he's going to have the ability to check into those things and put the Bucs in the best position. And then, of course, Mike Evans he'll have a little bit of pull. Tristan Wirfs will have a little bit of pull. Rashad White might see something and walk up to Baker and kind of tap him a little bit. And, they're going to work as a cohesive unit for sure. But when it comes to putting the vast majority of that power in the hands of Baker Mayfield, I would say easily 9 times out of 10, he is going to make the right pre-snap read, and he is going to put the Bucs, in the best position to run the right play and, convert a third down or, be able to hit a long shot or take advantage of something that they're seeing.
One of the big question marks I think the Bucs have, and tell me if I'm wrong, is the offensive line. I don't believe that offensive line is settled just yet. What is the update on it? How is that unit shaping up? And what do you think the best combination would be for that unit?
Yeah, I think Graham Barton from the jump already upgrades this offensive line. I love Robert Hainsey. He struggled last year, much more so than he did 2 years ago when he had to replace Ryan Jensen after his injury on the second day of training camp that ended up costing him the rest of his career. But you take a look at the offensive line last year. You had a rookie at right guard in Cody Mauch. Then you had Matt Filer and Aaron Stinnie kind of tag teaming left guard. You had Robert Hainsey at center. It did struggle a lot of interior pressure on Baker Mayfield. He was able to escape and make some incredible plays with his own athleticism, but he still took 40 sacks, and the vast majority of those were from interior pressure. The addition of Graham Barton alone already makes that a much more solid interior. Cody Mauch going into his second year, he's going to be a little bit better. And then you have the battle for left guard. And early on, in OTAs and some of these voluntary workouts, it looked like Sua Opeta was going to kind of take a stranglehold on that job. Well, come mandatory minicamp, it was Ben Bredesen, former New York Giant, that took every single first team snap at that left guard position. So it seems like he's kind of taken a little bit of a lead there. We'll have to see how it plays out in training camp as to whether or not he can hold on to that job or if that is going to be a major battle. I have that marked as one of the 5 key position battles for the Buccaneers in training camp. But even if they play to the same level that Stinnie and Filer played last year, the addition of Barton, the second year of Mauch, is still going to make that offensive line a little bit better than it was last year. Graham Barton is one of those guys that he could be a perennial all-pro center. He's that kind of athlete, that kind of just mauler in the interior of the line. So really excited to see what he's going to do. But ultimately, I think the best alignment is going to be obviously Tristan Wirfs and then Luke Gedeke as your bookends, Graham Barton in the middle, Cody Mauch on the right side. I would still lean Sua Opeta on the left side, but having not seen enough of either of them yet. It's truly a coin flip, but I just think the additional size that Opeta has over Bredesen might come in handy, but it's all about who's going to earn the job.
And of course, Giant fans are hoping Bredesen wins the job because that helps our chances at a higher comp pick. You mentioned Aaron Stinnie, who, is not on the team anymore. He's now with the Giants. So I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you for a quick scouting report on him, only because I'm putting together my 53-man roster article, and I'm just kind of curious what his strengths and weaknesses are real quick.
Stinnie was actually a big disappointment for me last year. He was a guy that was in line to win the starting job 2 years ago, suffered an injury in preseason against the Indianapolis Colts. And then, the Bucs brought in Matt Filer last year, and Stinnie worked his way back into the starting, the starting five there, but he had been a really solid and reliable offensive linemen, both in pass blocking and in run blocking when called upon. If you go back to the Bucs Super Bowl run in 2020 and the Bucs lose, oh my goodness, I just forgot his name, Alex Kappa. They lose him in the first playoff game against the Washington Redskins. Aaron Stinnie steps in, Aaron Stinnie steps in, and all of a sudden, he's a starting offensive lineman in the Super Bowl. Didn't allow a sack of Tom Brady while he was in the starting lineup, and really asserted himself as a key interior run blocker for Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones during that run. So I'm not really sure where the regression was last year. I hope that he gets back to where he was. He's not going to get you to any, or he's not going to get any Pro Bowls. He's not going to get any All Pros, but a plug and play guy that is so reliable in both facets of the offense was certainly a plus. So I hope that he gets back to the Aaron Stinnie that we saw in 2020 through, training camp and preseason of 22 compared to the mess that he was thrown into last year.
All right, we are talking with James Yarcho of Locked On Bucs. We're previewing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who face the New York Giants this year. When we come back, we're going to swing over to the defensive side of the ball, so don't go anywhere. Hey, Giant fans, I can't tell you how clutch Game Time has been for me this summer. Whether I want to see a Broadway show, a concert, or another event where tickets are hard to come by, I know I never have to worry thanks to Game Time's large selection of seats available at competitive prices. Want more reasons to check out Game Time? Start with event cancellation protection, upfront information about fees, seat locations, and the venue, last-minute money-saving deals, and their promise that if you find tickets elsewhere in the same section and row for less, Game Time will give you 110% of the difference. So go on and get the event tickets you've been wanting. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Terms apply. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I'm your host, Patricia Traina, and we're previewing the New York Giants 2024 opponents. Up today, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with James Yarcho. He's our Locked On Bucs host. Make sure you check him out throughout the season if you want to keep up with how the Bucs are shaping up, how their season's going before they get to the Giants. Always a good idea to check in on our other Locked On hosts to see what their teams are up to. And James, let's talk about the Bucs defense. I think that has basically been the strength, the bread and butter of this team. When you look at this defense, what excites you about it and what concerns you about it?
As far as what excites me, I mean, Antoine Winfield Jr., it doesn't get more exciting than Antoine Winfield Jr. He is the do-it-all player. He is the ultimate Todd Bowles defender. And what I mean by that is he is a guy that Todd Bowles uses to move all over the field, and you never know what he's doing. He may drop in coverage. He may play zone. He may play man. He may come up in the box to defend the run. He may be coming in on a delayed blitz, and just an unbelievable all-time season for him last year. Probably should have been at least in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year, but that's neither here nor there. But on top of that, bringing back Jordan Whitehead, to be his tag team partner there in the back end of the defense. That is going to be huge for the Buccaneers. No disrespect to Ryan Neal last year, but he was atrocious. He was bad in coverage. He was bad at tackling. He half the time looked lost. It was just a really, really bad fit. So bringing back Jordan Whitehead, who already knows the defense and can kind of transition seamlessly, that's going to be huge. And then, of course, the young guys, Kalijah Cansey coming into his second year, he was, a monster last season. Yaya Diaby, the day 3 pick for the Buccaneers in last year's draft, led the team in sacks, and now he's going to play a much bigger role with Shaq Barrett being gone, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka being kind of moved all over the place, Randy Gregory, who knows if he's ever going to actually show up, but Yaya is going to be the anchor of that edge rotation, and Levante David is still there, Vita Vea is still there. Like, this is a really, really good defense that a lot of people should be excited about, at least in terms of Bucs fans. But the concerning part is the question around the corners. Jamel Dean is one of the better corners in the league when he's on the field and can play. He has never played a full season in his career. And if there wasn't so much dead cap attached to him during the offseason, he might have been the one traded away rather than Carlton Davis, but that would have cost the Bucs way too much money. He had a terrible season last year. He has to bounce back, especially now that he's kind of the guy. And then opposite him, you have Zion McCollum, who got absolutely torched as a rookie last year, filled in for Davis, filled in for Dean when they were injured, and really had a great season, kind of earned that starting role, which allowed them to move on from Carlton Davis. And then the battle at the slot corner position. But the fear comes in as to whether or not Dean can get back to the way he was, if McCollum can continue his upward trajectory, and then the depth. If Dean goes down, as he's known to do, if McCollum misses time, where's the depth going to come from? They brought in, Tavier Thomas and Bryce Hall and drafted Tyke Smith, but these are guys that have to learn a Todd Bowles defense, and it's tough. It's really, really difficult. So there's a lot of pressure on those corners to not only stay healthy, but to perform.
One of the strengths of the New York Giants this year is going to probably be that passing game, the receivers. I mean, when you think about that matchup, Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, does that make you a little nervous, that potential matchup, or is there another matchup against that defense that just kind of, worries you?
I would say as of right now, that would be my concern is the skill set and the strengths of those Giants receivers up against this Bucs secondary, because I don't have faith that the Bucs secondary is going to be intact by time those two meet. Now, of course, we'll have to talk about it more when it comes time for our crossover episode, but I'm certainly more concerned with the ability of the wide receivers than I am, now the Bucs don't have to worry about Saquon. So, that kind of alleviates a little bit of the worry as far as what the Giants can bring against this Bucs defense.
What about the pass rush? I mean, historically, the Giants' offensive line of late has just not been very good blocking. There's some hope that line will be a little bit better, but still, Daniel Jones is going to be the starter, assuming that he's healthy. He's been known to sometimes be a little skittish, maybe because the pressure gets to him. I mean, how do you see them attacking the Jones with that pass rush?
It's gonna be an interesting chess game by Todd Bowles, because as much as I love Yaya Diaby, I don't think he's that player that can take over a game. He's not Shaq Barrett of 4 years ago. He's not Jason Pierre-Paul, guys that Todd Bowles was really able to just let them pin their ears back and go to town. So it's going to be about deception and bringing in extra guys from all over the field, which Todd Bowles is known to do. You're going to see Christian Izien or Tyke Smith blitzing from the slot corner position. You're going to see Antoine blitzing from all over the field. You're going to see Levante David coming in. The Bucs don't have Devin White, who was a really, really good pass rushing linebacker, but that was really all he could do. Good news for Giants fans. If you see Devin White on the field for the Eagles, target him with a wheel route because he can't cover them. Just a heads up. So it's going to be about getting that rush from Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea and Logan Hall from the front three, and then bringing blitzes that are well disguised. And that's kind of Todd Bowles' bread and butter. And he's built a defense now that any player on the field can be the one coming after the quarterback at any given time. So you never really know where the pressure is coming from. And that's really how he's been able to take advantage of some of these opposing offenses, and especially some that have questionable or shaky protection for their quarterbacks.
All right, we're speaking with James Yarcho of Locked On Bucs. When we come back, we're going to learn more about some of the new faces on the Bucs, including the draft picks. And the Bucs also have a face that's familiar to the Giants that we'll touch upon. So don't go anywhere. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to Locked On Giants. I'm your host, Patricia Traino, with special guest James Yarcho, host of Locked On Bucs. And make sure you are keeping it here all week long as we continue our look at the New York Giants 2024 opponents. We're getting some great stuff from our fellow hosts over on the Locked On NFL Network, who do such a great job. And, I'm so lucky to have such a network at my disposal. I mean, it makes a big difference. And James, let's talk about some of the new faces on this Bucs team, free agents, the draft picks. Who are some of the guys that are really kind of, made some noise in the spring, who you are looking forward to seeing maybe having a bigger role on this Bucs team?
Obviously, Graham Barton, who I mentioned earlier in the show, he is the, no pun intended, the centerpiece of the offseason for the Buccaneers. What he's going to be able to bring to help that offensive line and help both Baker Mayfield and the run game, that was huge. But as far as a couple of the rookies that are already making some noise, Jalen McMillan, the wide receiver that they got at the tail end of the third round, could have been the first Washington wide receiver taken in the draft had he not dealt with so many injuries in the offseason. So the fact that the Bucs got him so late in the third round is astounding, and he is already endearing himself to his teammates, to Baker Mayfield, to the coaching staff. This is a guy who is probably one of, if not the best, pure route runner coming out of the draft. His footwork, his IQ, his ability to find space against better opposition is astounding. And then he always finds a way to position himself to either catch the ball or nobody's catching it. Like as such a young player, he is really, really impressive. And then the next pick that the Bucs had, Bucky Irving, the running back out of Oregon. I was disappointed. I'm not going to lie. When the draft happened, I was disappointed that they went with Bucky Irving, because I was looking for a bigger running back to complement Rachaad White, an Audric Estime size guy, or Brendan Hall or Braden Hall out of Wisconsin. One of those bigger running backs. I have absolutely fallen in love with Bucky Irving. This kid is incredible. He is a one-cut, two-step, full-speed guy. He is a weapon in the passing game, sure hands, and he's been a guy after practices, whether it was rookie minicamp, OTAs, mandatory minicamp, after practice, he is working one-on-one out there with Kyle Trask, the backup quarterback, working on handoffs, working on routes, working on his catching. He is coming for that RB2 spot, and he is going to be a big factor in the Buccaneers offseason. And then finally, you got to mention Sterling Shepard, right? The former New York Giant. Baker Mayfield really kind of helped manufacture that entire thing to get it going. He texted Sterling, asked how he was feeling, asked if he was able to give it another go, because he had heard Shepard's name kind of floated out there by the coaches. And he told Sterling, he said, have your agent reach out to the Bucs. Let's get this done. We're talking about his favorite target at Oklahoma, somebody that he knows, that he trusts. And I feel like Shepard's going to kind of fill in that Brashad Perryman, David Moore role that we've seen over the last couple of years. McMillan's going to be the 3. But if you have Sterling Shepard out there that can, give you a big play, give you a big first down, and really kind of get the team going like we saw David Moore do a couple of times last year, that's huge. We're talking about a team that thought they had Russell Gage as their number 3 wide receiver last year, and he misses the entire season. Now they have 2 legitimate wide receiver 3 options in McMillan and Shepard on any given play, plus still the speed of Trey Palmer and those guys. So Sterling Shepard, I think, was a sneaky big addition to this offense.
Have you met him yet? He's a sweetheart.
I have not. I have not had the opportunity to speak with him yet, but yeah, from everything that I've heard, like, he is just an absolutely awesome guy, and I know he kind of feels rejuvenated, and he's excited to be in Tampa, and he's excited to reunite with Baker. That he even said that Saquon told him to quit playing around, and he still has it, and he needs to get out there and play some football. So I feel like kind of this fresh start in this new scheme under Liam Cohen, getting to play with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Baker is going to be huge for him. And I'm not saying he's going to have, 900 yards and 8 touchdowns or anything, but we could be looking back on this season and point to Sterling Shepard having 2 or 3 of the, biggest or key or most key plays of the Bucs offense the entire season.
Yeah, you're going to like him when you meet him. He was one of my favorites for sure. Just a sweetheart of a guy and a leader, very underrated, but, strong leader in the locker room. All right, another familiar face that Giant fans will recognize. You guys hired Thomas McGahee as your special teams coordinator. Early impressions on that. And I know, personnel, they're still playing around with who they're going to have, but, any early impressions on T-Mac?
Yeah, just kind of, as you said, they're having to play around with these new kickoff rules, right? So, special teams, as far as punting and kicking, they've been great. The returning, not so much. The Bucs haven't found that guy, and in fact, they're historically one of the worst return teams in NFL history. This was a franchise that started in 1976, didn't have their first kickoff return for a touchdown until 2006. So, I mean, that's a long time. So, bringing in McGahee and being able to try to, get that jump started a little bit. Of course, their main returner is no longer with the team. That was Devin Tompkins. So now he's getting to play with kind of all of these other combinations. They'll have 2 kick returners, trying to find the guy in punt return that can really get this thing jump started, because if they need that spark in order to kind of jumpstart the offense. If the offense has gone 3 and out, 2 drives in a row, but the defense is holding up there, and you need that punt return to be able to spark the offense and kind of get them going, get them in decent field position, take a little bit of the pressure off that. You don't have to go from the 20-yard line. Now you're going from your own 45. You just need 20 yards to at least get in field goal range. So, McGahee comes with, historically, some success in that aspect, and the Bucs desperately need it. So, the players have loved him so far. He's an energetic dude, and he doesn't really mess around. So excited to see how that's going to translate this year compared to the special teams woes of last season.
All right, James, I got a couple more for you. Earlier in the show, you mentioned that you had 5 position battles you were keeping an eye on. You mentioned left guard as one of them. What are your other 4?
The running back 2 battle between Bucky Irving and Chase Edmonds. You have the wide receiver 3 battle. Well, really, the wide receiver 3 and 4 battle is going to be a key one. Then, an interesting one is going to be inside linebacker. Now, I believe that KJ Britt is the leader in the clubhouse in that aspect. He was the one that filled in for Devin White during his injury and his temper tantrums and all that, and ended up starting into the playoffs, and Devin White would come off of the bench and reserve in certain situations. But the Bucs also spent draft capital last year on Servassier Dennis, who, when given the opportunity last season, had some flash plays. So the 2 of them duking it out for linebacker is going to be a big one. You have the slot corner battle. Tyke Smith, the rookie out of Georgia, is a slot corner made in a laboratory strictly for a Todd Bowles defense. However, Christian Izzy and the undrafted rookie last year out of Rutgers took a stranglehold on that job, did not let go, and played outstanding football all year. He is not going down without a fight. Then they brought in Tavier Thomas from Houston, who also is a really good slot corner. So you have a three-way battle for one starting job, and that is going to be a very, very heated and highly contested fight for a starting position out of those three guys. So yeah, those are the five that I'm really looking at. And I think slot corner is going to be the most entertaining. I think inside linebacker is probably going to end up being the most important.
Okay. Now your final question, the biggest X factor that's going to make or break this Bucs team.
Rachaad White. Rachaad White is going to be a guy, because this is, again, you go back to the Buccaneers being the worst team in the NFL in the run game. But Rachaad White was still 10 yards away from getting 1,000 rushing yards last year. The problem was he had to do it all himself. Bringing in Bucky Irving, that's going to help. But the Bucs offense goes as Rachaad goes. We can talk about Baker and Mike and Chris until we're blue in the face. If Rachaad is off, it's going to cause problems, because he's not just the RB1. He's not just the factor in the run game, but he is also a major factor in the passing game. Getting Rachaad in space created the ability for the Bucs to go on that run at the end of the season, win the division, and get into the second round of the playoffs. And when he would struggle, the offense as a whole would struggle. So if Liam Cohen is able to get Rachaad going, especially early in the season, this offense becomes that much more dangerous when you have to worry about Rachaad White running the ball or catching the ball in the flat or the little dump offs. Now, all of a sudden, things open up for Mike, for Chris, who's coming out of the slot this year, for Jalen McMillan, Cade Otton, who we didn't even mention until right now. It all goes back to Rachaad White. And I think he's coming up on a contract year. He's in for a very big season and wants to prove that he is a legit top running back in this league.
James, great overview of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where things currently stand. Now, obviously, we've got training camp we got to get through before we get to the 53-man roster, but you just did a great job outlining everything, giving us a little bit more insight. It's always hard keeping track of everybody else around the team, especially when you're devoted to one team. But, this was really good, and I appreciate you coming on. He is James Yarcho, the host of Locked On Bucs. Please, folks, check out his work as well as all our Locked On hosts. We have a program, you name it, we probably have a program covering it, whether it's baseball, hockey, basketball, college, obviously NFL. We've got all 32 teams covered for you. So do check out our work. For James Yarcho, I'm Patricia Trena. Giant fans, we'll see you next time.